a thermometer that reads right, et cetera, et cetera? And how do y'all compare to other ones out there in the market, basically?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want you to sell yourself. I mean, that's really what it is, you know.
Yeah, it just feels so wrong. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. All right. Whenever you're ready, brother.
I'm ready for you.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So Kyle Halvorson with Thermoworks. Go ahead and tell everybody who you are and what you do with Thermoworks.
Hey guys, my name is Kyle Halvorson. I work with Thermoworks. I've been here a little over 3 years, going on 4 now, and I work on the marketing team. So I handle a lot of external relationships.
Awesome. So all the like influencer programs, all that stuff is ran through you, and you do the social media too, or is that kind of under your umbrella?
I work preliminary with the influencers and affiliates, and then we do have a team for social media.
Gotcha.
I do spend a lot of my time there, and we work closely together.
Awesome. Got it. Got it. So I know. So I want all my listeners to know because we see a lot of thermometers out there. Academy, Thermoworks. Let's do this. Where can Thermoworks be found?
Thermoworks, we are primarily on our website, thermoworks.com. We do have a network of brick and mortar locations as well.
Okay.
So your local barbecue shop will most likely carry Thermoworks products.
Okay, awesome. So I kind of made a intro audio already to this, and I kind of explained that I didn't see, and this is why we're doing the podcast. That way, things that I don't know, then that means there's probably a lot of people that really don't know. And my thought was, yes, I've never seen them in Academy, Home Depot. You got all these other generic brands. I did think it was more of an e-commerce geared, other than barbecues galore and Premier Grill and the I guess you would call those barbecue pro shops would carry your product. So that is correct. That's where you would find them.
Yeah, you'll find them in the barbecue or high-end cooking stores.
Awesome.
You won't find them in the big box stores. That's by choice.
Good.
There's a lot of pros to being in big box stores, and there's a lot of cons to being in big box stores and on places like Amazon.com. That's a strategic choice on our part. We didn't feel that it represented the brand the way that we wanted it to. We want to be able to provide the best product and the best customer experience. So that's why we like to handle those relationships personally.
Absolutely. So basically kind of cutting out the middleman in a way to where most of the customer service issues would go directly to you versus, I would have to go through a customer service person at the desk, and then they get with y'all. So basically you kind of cut out that middle piece where you don't have any issues. Is that probably about right?
Yeah, and it's not cutting out the middleman in that traditional commercial sense where, we're cutting out the middleman and marking down the prices and sale.
Right.
We really want to work directly with the customer. We have a team here in Utah of customer care representatives. I believe they're up to about 12 now. When you call us, we have a live person answer the phone. There's no recordings. And these guys are trained. They have our products at home and they use them and they're passionate about them. So when you call for advice, like, hey, what's the best way to cook my turkey? Not only do we have an on-staff chef who cooks every week and manages our blog and has all those temperature tips and tricks, everybody that you talk to, whether that's on our customer care team or our technical support team, which is also here in our same building in Utah, they all own the products and have a passion for cooking, and they will help you figure out how to best use those. So you're not just buying a thermometer, you're also buying the support, and I'm a little passionate about that. I spent my first couple of years here on that technical support team, and that was a great learning experience for me because I get to talk to people about the way that they cook at home, and I learned a lot from people calling in, and I was able to share that with other people as they called in. So
awesome.
It's really quite a neat experience.
Well, that's awesome to hear. That's awesome. So with temperature, is there like what sets y'all's apart from others as far as, I guess, accuracy and things like that? Because as far as food service goes, we got to have an accurate thermometer. How do y'all achieve that with Thermoworks? How has it been this for years and years? How do y'all keep that consistency? Is there like a standard that y'all go by as far as in production, or what makes Thermoworks better than just the other people?
Yeah.
That's a
this
broad
could be
question,
a
ain't
long answer.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very broad question. There's a lot of facets of the question, but I think I can answer that kind of in a summary form there. Um, there's a lot of different thermometer technologies or temperature measurement technologies or sensor types. Uh, in our flagship product, the ThermoPen, we use what's called a thermocouple, a Type K thermocouple, and we work with a manufacturer in the United Kingdom who's been doing it for decades, and they are world renowned for their ability to make these thermocouples. Um, so the process that we use, we make them in house. It starts with the components that go into that. Very particular about all of the components, and then also the process. They're made by hand. Every one is tested and calibrated. And if they don't pass those tests, they don't go any farther in production. It's not a mass production facility where we don't go from making headphones to car stereos to thermometers. It's a dedicated thermometry or thermometer production facility. And
Yep.
in that facility, there are multiple calibration labs that are accredited by governing bodies. So we can tell you with certainty that they're accurate.
Awesome. And you can purchase certificates of the calibration as an extra deal, or does it come with it automatically when you purchase a Thermoworks product?
So there are many products that do and many products that don't come with those calibration certificates.
Okay.
Every ThermoPen does come with that certificate of calibration that is accredited, which is important. Because if you're in a restaurant, for example, and your health inspector comes by and says, "Hey, show me your calibration certificates for your thermometers," that actually comes in the box, and that at no extra cost.
Awesome.
And that's important because it's one thing to have a thermometer, and it's another thing to have a thermometer that reads correctly.
Yep, absolutely.
And so that's your proof that that it was tested by a third party.
And that's a big deal. I mean, that's a big deal in all food, of course, is making sure you have that safe temperature and stuff. But for barbecue, like brisket, I mean, we got to have a thermometer that reads accurate to know when to keep it on or when to pull it, because that's a big center of the plate item. And so yeah, your ThermoPen MK4, that's my go-to for when I'm using it. And yeah, for brisket, that's perfect. Do you have anything for the listeners that is a good barbecue tool? I mean, of course, I could go with Dot, Chef Alarm, Smoke, Signals. Is there some other ones that might be missing that you want to highlight on? That's a good, just I guess maybe barbecue geared. I mean, everything's kind of geared towards just food in general. I probably can't really narrow that down, huh?
Yeah, and that's you just listed off our core of products there. Going back to your temperature thing, I like to say it's one thing, or there's two aspects of that temperature. For food safety, like you mentioned, if you're in that 40 to 140 danger zone that we call it for too long, your food can go bad, or your food will go bad, and you shouldn't eat it.
Right, it will.
But there's also an issue of food quality, right? And you can cook your brisket to 140 and eat it.
Yep.
And it's perfectly safe, but the quality of that brisket or the quality of that experience is not going to be the same.
Absolutely.
So having a good thermometer. Before I worked here, I didn't really have a thermometer, and I would do that, cut the chicken breast open type thing to see if it's changed color all the way through.
Right.
And that kind of works, but being able to get that temperature with a thermometer, I can not only know that it's safe 100%, but also you get this repeatability. So you prevent from overcooking, but you can do it every time by following that same method by knowing the temperature, and that's a big thing also.
For sure, that adds to your repetition, basically.
Yeah, so the more you do it, and maybe you take notes or maybe you remember, but you can get better, and you can say, "Oh, I didn't like it that way. Maybe I'll cook it a little bit more, or I'll cook it a little bit less, or maybe I'll cook it at a higher temperature in the oven."
Right.
But the more data you have, the more you can adjust and make those those fine tuning and really nail down the food so it's the best for you.
Yep, for sure. I agree with you. A lot of in the barbecue deal, there's a lot of old school uh, barbecuers out there. They don't believe in a thermometer. They all go by feel, by touch. Good for them. I'm using a thermometer.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
and
mean
that may be true at home, but I've walked around a lot of barbecue competitions like Memphis in May or the American Royal, and every one of those guys has a thermometer in their pocket. So if you're at home thinking I'm a pro, I don't need it, the pros literally use temperature. When the money's on the line, that's how you nail it every time.
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt about that, especially in the restaurant. That's how people should do it in the restaurant business as well.
Exactly.
That consistency. I mean, that's all part of the process is that temperature and getting it just right. So,
Yep. I've worked with a lot of high-end steakhouses in my time here, and they said, oh, I don't need a thermometer. I can touch it and tell when it's done. And then I get same restaurant, but the manager calls in. He says, you have no idea how many steaks we take back, and because they're overcooked or undercooked, or the customer didn't like it. But now, that $100 on the thermometer saved me thousands of dollars in returned meat.
wow, geez, okay.
So at home, it might not be, the stakes are not that high, right? No pun intended there.
That was good.
The risk reward isn't as high, but you spend a lot of money on your food. You don't want to ruin it. Just have it the way you like it and be able to do that every time.
For sure, I agree with you. So, speak on a little bit of the Billows, the barbecue temperature control fan, because I know there's a lot of Weber cookers out there, and that's a pretty good system for it.
Yep, and we have a Weber Smoky Mountain here on the grill patio. It's one of many smokers that we have here in our facility, but the Billows is a game changer. The Weber Smoky Mountain is an awesome grill, awesome smoker, and it does really well. Honestly, on its own, you can set the vents, and then they do really well, unless it's windy or rainy or something happens. But the Billows just makes that kind of a seamless experience. The Billows is a barbecue temperature control fan. If you're not familiar with that, it clips on the bottom vent, and then you block all the rest of the airflow, so the only inlet is through this fan. And then it's controlled by the signals, which is a 4-channel barbecue temperature alarm.
Awesome.
So you have multiple probes that come off of the signals. One of them goes to the grate temperature, and you can set whatever grate temperature you want, and that's going to turn the fan on and off to maintain that temperature.
Nice.
I think when we were testing that, we came in one day and put in a full bag of Kingsford briquettes in the Weber Smoky Mountain and set the Billows to run. And we intended to run it empty that day, and then the next day we were going to do a cook with food in it and just kind of gauge stability before we launched the product.
Right.
One of many tests. That's not a very scientific test, but it's just one of the things that we do, right?
Right. Nice.
And we came in the next day. We'd been watching it. We couldn't even start the next one because it was still burning the charcoal from the day before.
Wow. Nice.
So you get by monitoring and restricting that airflow, you actually get better burn out of your charcoal or longer life.
That's awesome. So the Billows temperature control fan, $59 on your website. Now you got to purchase that you got to have that and the signals as well, right? That's not all just one piece, obviously.
Right. You will need the signals to control that.
Okay. Awesome. So for those listening, and they're kind of confused on what's going on. If there's pellet grill cookers out there, it's in a sense the same thing. That fan, using it as a convection oven, that's the same process, right, Kyle?
Yeah. So Billows will not work on a pellet grill. Your pellet grill already has that built in. You have your temperature controller,
right,
where you set your temperature. That's the equivalent of a signals, and then it controls the fan and also the auger, and it more controls temperature with that auger because the fan runs constant, but it feeds more fuel in. And that's the two ways that you control your temperature, either with oxygen restriction or fuel.
Right. Yep. Inlet or outlet of your smokers usually. That's
Yes,
awesome.
and so on a pellet grill, they're controlling the flow of fuel rather than the flow of oxygen.
Yeah. Well, they're doing it in two ways. They're doing that with the auger, but then they're doing the oxygen with the fan.
Yes,
So basically, just take that auger. So all those pellet guys that don't like the pellet smokers, well, look, you can take your Weber Smoky Mountain and make it a little bit easier to use. Set it and forget it almost. That's what everybody's going for
exactly.
nowadays. So
And there are a lot of pros and cons to pellet grills versus Smoky Mountains or charcoal grills, and honestly I eat food off of both, and I like both. So that's not an argument that I want to get in with anybody because it's just preference.
yeah,
Cook
it
what
is.
you like and eat what you like.
Yep. There's many ways to skin a cat. So
Yep.
yep, absolutely. What else we got? So we talked on the Billows signal. Now smoke. That's another good. So what is the smoke versus signals? Can you tell me the big difference in the two?
Yeah. So prior to the smoke, we had things like the dot and the chef alarm, which were single channel leave-in thermometers, meaning that it's got a base unit with a display on it, and then there's a probe that you plug in, and it gives you 4 feet, so you can put the probe in your food and then close the oven door or the grill door, smoker lid on the cable, and have the display on the outside, so you can know and track your temperatures of your food without opening the door and letting all the heat out. We noticed that people started stacking up the dots or the chef alarms, especially in competition. They'd have a stack of 8 to 10 of these devices on the outside of their smokers because they're cooking so many pieces of meat all at the same time. We decided to do a multi-probe option, which we call the smoke. So that gives you 2 probes, and it does come with those included in the box, one for meat, meaning it's got a sharp tip that you can penetrate, and then one short blunt tip probe that we intend to use for air. And you can come with a grate clip that you can clip it on the grate. So for most people at home, you're concerned with the grate temperature, what food you cook or what temperature you're cooking your food at, and then the temperature of your food. You're not generally cooking 5 briskets at home.
No.
If you are, that I'm coming to your house for dinner. But
well, come on. But yeah, I'm in catering. Duh.
Oh, nice. Yeah, absolutely. So that's a little bit different application, right?
Right.
Those are fully interchangeable. So if you wanted to use 2 meat probes and you're not worried about the pit temperature, absolutely. Swap those out, and you can use any combination of those Pro Series probes. And that, right from the get-go, smoke just took off. And then, lo and behold, people will start saying, well, we actually want more probes. So a couple of years later, I think smoke launched in 2016. That's right. And then just last year, I can't say last year anymore. It's 2020 now.
Right.
In 2018, we launched Signals, which is a 4-probe thermometer. And that one also has built-in Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connectivity. So if you're at competition or if you're out at a catering gig and you don't have Wi-Fi, you can still connect directly to your phone with Bluetooth. And when you're at home, and you can have it connect to the Wi-Fi, and then you can leave the house if you need to run to the grocery store because you forgot something.
Right.
And you can still see the temperatures and get alerts on your phone.
Awesome.
Because it's talking to your Wi-Fi at home.
Okay. I didn't know Signals had the Wi-Fi, so that's awesome. I'm definitely gonna talk about that more. Awesome. So yeah, Signals so it's 4-channel Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. What other good? I mean, you have Thermoworks has so many products out there, and obviously this is the barbecue show, so I want to talk on anything that's a barbecue related. So I'm gonna click on your link, barbecue smoker, and that takes me to barbecue and smoking thermometers. There we go.
Uh-huh.
So I answered my own question. That's
Absolutely.
awesome. So thermoworks.com//barbecue grilling. Got it. Go ahead, Kyle. Sorry.
I was going to say, we just recently launched, not a thermometer, but we do have a full line of silicone products that, it sounds silly to even talk about, right? Because we talk so much about thermometry, but we believe in building the high-end products. And so we designed in-house some silicone spatulas, spatulas, and we just launched a barbecue brush, which believe it or not, there's quite a variety of brushes out there, and they all do different things differently. We designed ours to really hold a lot of barbecue sauce, and
Nice.
it's big enough you could do a whole chicken thigh all at once if you're doing competition. But I mean, I've even used it just to butter the tops of rolls as they come out of the oven, and it holds and it's wide enough. It holds enough butter and it's wide enough that it just makes that so easy. Instead of going over a bunch of times, it's just basically one swipe and it's done. So those are really nice products. They're full silicone, so they just go right in the dishwasher when you're done.
Awesome.
You're not going to deteriorate a wood handle or anything like that.
Nice. I just threw it up on the screen. So as far as for the YouTube video that this will be on, they're going to be able to see this right now. So $15, high temp silicone brushes. Those are nice. Cool. Yeah, there is a lot of brushes out there, but then there's also not. There's a lot of brushes that are just massive as far as handles that are 16 feet long for whatever reason. I guess you want to hang it on something. It just doesn't work, especially if you're getting into a small grill and you're trying to get at a certain angle and that long handle. What's the length of these brushes? A 12-inch. Sorry, speaking too soon.
Yep. Yeah, it should say right there on the website. Yeah. We designed it to be long enough to keep your hands away from live fire if you're using it in a grill scenario, but not so long that it's like incredibly bulky. And the nice thing about all the silicone there, and I just was talking to somebody yesterday who made the same comment. They don't hold smells or flavors. If you're cooking a sauce one day and you run it through the dishwasher, you wash that. Yep. Your next thing you cook is not going to have hints of that left over, which apparently is fairly common.
Okay, I guess I'd never really noticed, but I can see how it would.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm gonna have to jump online and get me one of these for sure. Let's see. Let's go back. What else you got new out, Kyle? Anything other than the brush? I see you got the hot pads, the silicone hot pads. Yep. I think those are a good idea, especially for at home. With me in my garage, I have some stainless steel tops, so it's okay. But as far as like inside the kitchen, certain surfaces, you don't want to put that steaming hot pan or, something that you baked in your smoke or even in the oven. Yeah, you want to sit it on top of something. So those are pretty cool, and they come in nice colors. I see you're into all the bright colors.
Trivet is really great under a cutting board. If you don't want it to move around, it gives you a good traction on there, so your cutting board's safe.
That's awesome. 9x12. Okay.
So for 2019, Billows was our big product launch. And then we've always got products in the pipeline, so we're looking forward to a couple really cool things this year. I don't have all the final details on that yet, so maybe we'll have to get back together later this year and we can talk about those.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to be the platform or the podcast that gets all the new news. Actually, Master Built, they shared a little bit with me on their interview last week that they didn't share with anybody. Who else did? I think Rec Tech. He told me, Ray told me a couple of things for this year that they're coming out with that. So yeah, I want to be that platform that gets all the goods.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to do that. You just got to get all the final details first.
For sure.
Then we can do that.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Okay, well, did we really dig into it deep, Kyle, do you think? Or should we keep going?
What's that?
I said, do you think we digged deep enough into this, or we need to sell them some more?
I think you could. I assume you're editing afterwards, but we could talk about the instant reads versus leave-ins if you want to try that.
The what again? Sorry. Oh, the instant reads versus leave-in.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm down for that. So we're talking about instant read thermometers versus your leave-in ones. Oh, can you hear me? Kyle.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. I lost you for a second.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. So you want to touch on like the classic versus the MK4 or?
So more of what I was looking to talk about is there are two different types of thermometers. We generally classify those as an instant read thermometer, like the Thermopen, either the Mark IV or the Classic.
Okay.
or a leave-in style thermometer like the smoke or the signals that we've talked about a little bit.
Gotcha. Got it. Okay.
And a lot of people, they ask, well, why do I need 2 thermometers? And an analogy that kind of helps explain that is on your car dashboard, you have a speedometer and you also have an odometer, 2 different meters. One tells you how fast you're currently going, right, and one tells you how far you've gone.
True.
In a similar fashion, your leave-in thermometers, you're going to be able to put in that meat, or whether that's brisket or turkey or whatever that is, and you can leave that there and kind of track how far you've come up on that cook. And with your thermopen, you're going to be able to spot check, and you'll be able to know exactly where you are in multiple places in the meat really quickly. So that's important. When you do, especially poultry, you want to make sure you get it upward to that 165, and you leave that probe in there. That's measuring the temperature exactly where that probe tip is. In all of our sensors, be that leave-in or instant read, the sensor bead is in the very, very tip of the probe. That last 1/8 of an inch or so is where you're going to get a temperature reading.
Okay.
If that's not in the center of the meat, you might be getting a slightly higher reading than what the temperature in the center of the meat is. So it's important to come back through and with your thermopen and check in a couple of different spots and make sure that you don't find anything below the temperature that you want for your meat. Poultry 165, pork 145, beef really just kind of depends on whether you're going for rare or well done. But it's important to check in lots of places.
For sure. What's the time? So for reading out on the instant versus the leave-in, what's the time difference? Yeah.
So the leave-in thermometers, they are a little bit slower response time, but it's a kind of an unfair comparison, right? Because on your thermopen, it's a 2 to 3 second response time, and you're putting that in, you're taking it out, putting it back in, taking it out, and you need that fast response. With your leave-in probe, you're putting that in, and then you're leaving it there. It takes a couple more seconds to come to temperature, but then as it changes, it reacts in real time.
Okay.
So it's only that initial response, and then the changes happen in real time. If your food doesn't change within 7 seconds, it doesn't change 10 degrees. So you're going to see those incremental changes really quickly.
Got it. So the leave-in just once it's stabilized, then you're in live time as far as live temp.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, where are all your social plugs? Where can people see Thermoworks? Y'all do a lot of content for social media as far as pictures, and everybody loves pictures nowadays. So I want you to plug all your.
We do. Like I mentioned, I think a little bit before, we do have a full-time chef on staff, our culinary editor Martin, and we do cooks pretty much every week. And then we'll write a blog post about that cook, highlighting the temperature angles. So that not only gives you some good ideas for recipes, but also how to make those work the best and be able to repeat them at home, like we talked about repeatability. If I say cook the chicken till it's done, that means something different to you than it means to your neighbor.
Right.
So, but if I say cook the chicken to 165, you and your neighbor could both do that with the right equipment.
For sure.
Very easily. So and that generates a lot of photos. So you can check us out on the blog at blog.thermoworks.com, and you can get some good recipe ideas or tips and tricks. And then we are also on all the major social platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, under Thermoworks.
And
so you can check us out there.
And you were mentioning blog, and then I think, did you mention recipes to me, or am I jumping the gun?
Yeah. So all the recipes live on the blog.
And now, okay, what I'm getting, Pinterest. Will that be on Pinterest as well? Because I know a lot of recipes and stuff is on Pinterest. Are y'all on there?
Yeah, we do have a Pinterest, and we do post quite a few of those there, but the complete library will be on the blog.
Awesome. And where can you find the blog at?
It's blog.thermoworks.com.
Boom. Awesome. I was just getting off your site, and I saw this dish temp. Do y'all sell a lot of those the dishwasher thermometer? Basically, it looks like a fake plate, and I guess it tells you whether your dishwasher is at the right temperature or not, would be my guess.
We do. That's been incredibly successful for us, and there's nothing else like it in the market. The dish temp is designed, like I mentioned, we cater to, or we design all of our stuff for industry, food service or food processing. It's built to withstand those types of environments. And if you say you do catering,
Right.
You're familiar with the harshness that can be that environment, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Food prep, travel, transport. I mean, that's really hard on equipment. And that's why the home cooks and barbecue guys really love our stuff, is because it's designed to withstand that. So it's a lot easier to withstand the use of at home. And they last forever. I've repaired thermopens that were 10 years old before they had any sort of issue, and a lot of times it's just a dead battery.
Wow.
But
that rolls into my next one. How long? So once you get your thermopen or any of your thermometers from Thermoworks, how long do those usually last till they need to be either recalibrated or you really need to, test it in some ice water? Is it a pretty safe thing to say you got several years, or how do you approach that kind of question? How long does it last?
I get that question a lot, and there's not one right answer. It's kind of like saying, how do you cook ribs?
Right.
But the correct answer to that question is it depends on the way that thermopen or thermometer has been used, stored, and cleaned. If you take good care of it, chances are you'll never have to have it recalibrated.
Okay, nice.
I've not seen one yet that's been out of calibration that wasn't physically damaged, and that's just a result of damaging the electronics that measure temperature. But you can always test it if you're uncertain. Like you mentioned, the glass of ice water. What we'd actually want to do is fill a glass completely full of ice, and then just put a little bit of water in there to fill in the gaps, and that's called an ice bath. And once that stabilizes, you can stabilize it just by stirring with the probe. That should give you a reading of 32 degrees.
Okay. Nice.
And if you're on there at 32 degrees, then you should be just fine everywhere else.
Awesome. And I'm just now looking at, this Thermopen IR. That would be good for even the steak guys, because they can check the internal of the steak as well as the IR use on the grates, to see exactly how hot those grill grates are on that grill. So I just now noticed that
exactly. That's a really fun product. I really enjoy mine. It gives you all the speed and accuracy of the Thermopen Mark IV with that probe, so you can check your steak just like you said.
Nice.
But you also, when you close the probe, you can click that scan button on the front of it,
okay,
and it'll actually activate the infrared portion. It's where the battery compartment would normally be on a Mark IV, and you can get a surface reading with the infrared.
Nice. That's awesome, man. Well, cool. I appreciate you being on the Texas Barbecue Show podcast, brother. I appreciate
thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and definitely whenever y'all get more solidified on these new releases or this upcoming news, please let me know, and let's jump on here again and let the world know.
That sounds great. Yeah, we'll get it out.
Awesome, man. Well, take care. Have a good week, and thanks for talking with me.
Bye.
All right, bye. All right. That was Kyle with Thermoworks. He influence marketer, I guess, in the marketing department over there. Man, they got more stuff out than I've noticed. And this is a big deal. This is probably a very key episode for the barbecue show, only because all of my listeners, like you, cook just like I do every day. And we got to have a thermometer. You're not trying to get anybody sick, your kids sick, especially with poultry, like he said. If y'all want to jump on thermoworks.com, check them out. And maybe I'll have an affiliate link or some kind of link to post in there. That way, maybe you can get a little discount or something by putting code barbecue show. So we'll see what happens. Thank y'all for listening in, and we'll see you later.